But I think we've got a good amount of podcasts now. We can stick them all on at once. That's good.
Yeah.
Yeesh.
And then we can be like, yeah, our podcasts are available on
Spotify,
Just completely
iTunes.
my soul left. My
Wow, that was amazing.
Hello and welcome back to the Spacemen From Pluto podcast. I'm your host this week, James, and joining me is...
Ben, hopefully.
It's Dan.
And Christian.
Right, but before we get started, boys, I think we need to, just step back and have a moment's silence for Christian's virtual backgrounds, which we have unfortunately lost during this new setup.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The laptop won't
Christmas
let
New
me.
York setup.
Hopefully they will be back at some point, but, for now, while everything's a bit up in the air with everyone's setups, we are going to have to say goodbye to them, but don't worry, they will return.
Yes.
Anyway, this week we thought, 2020 was quite a disappointing year. Lots of plans cancelled, lots of letdowns. So why not continue that theme and just talk about some of the films that have disappointed us the most ever? Does anyone want to, we'll get straight into it, this time. We're not going to bore you with what we've been watching. We're just going to head straight into this main topic. Does anyone want to take us away?
You go, you're the host.
Me go?
Yeah,
host.
go on, start us off.
All right, go on then.
host.
Because I'll be honest, this was not hard for me to think of at all. As soon as Ben pitched this idea, I was like, yep, got it. There is one film that disappointed me more than anything. And that's Suicide Squad. What a letdown that film was. So I think it's when we were talking about this, what makes the most disappointing film. It's it's not just it's a bad film. It's sort of like expectation versus delivery. And boy, did that film not deliver, because the Suicide Squad is a great concept. It's a really nice idea. You take villains, you force them, they have to do the tasks that the government don't want to get their hands dirty with, and it's below the heroes because it's a bit dark, but you want no accountability with. It's a great idea. This film is awful. It's the thing that it looked promising, it had a good cast, it looked like it was going to have some good style, and then it all just seemed to get thrown out the window as soon as the film started.
Yeah, a huge misunderstanding of its the villains as well, and what the Suicide Squad could do as a group. The plot was too big for their roles.
Absolutely. The Suicide Squad works best when they're say the government have fucked up and they've accidentally let some secrets get out. The Suicide Squad have to be sent over to enemy soil to get them back, and if it goes wrong, the government allowed we didn't send them, they're just off trying to steal secrets. No accountability. Instead of doing that kind of thing, they just went, let's have them save the world. No, that's not what the Suicide Squad are for. What happened in that film is the kind of thing that would be dealt by the Justice League.
No, I agree. I was going to put Suicide Squad on my list, but then I was like, no, because I was disappointed before Suicide Squad came out, because Batman vs Superman happened, and one of the big complaints that lots of critics had with Batman vs Superman was, it's too dark, it's too gritty, it's very brutal and violent. And then I remember that the Warner Brothers' reaction to that was, well, we've ordered some reshoots on Suicide Squad to make it more lighthearted and fun, and it's no, that's not what the Suicide Squad is.
Yeah.
It sounds like
the lighthearted is probably the best bit of that film, Captain Boomerang and stuff like that.
It sounds like they were trying to go for the Guardians of the Galaxy feel, right? They thought, this is a team of unrelated kind of misfits, exactly. Yeah, what else is like that? Guardians of the Galaxy. Yeah, let's put some jokes in. And again, DC just copying Marvel and not doing their own thing.
The problem was that they did the original sort of dark, gritty Suicide Squad that still had jokes in, but was, more in line with what DC was doing. Then they did the light-hearted reshoots, which apparently they did enough reshoots that it could have been made into a film itself. But what they did was they showed both of those films to target audiences, and collected sort of people's general feelings on both of those films, and then instead of choosing the one that had the better reaction, they took the bits that people like from one, took the bits that people like from the other, and spliced them together into this horrific Frankenstein's monster of an incoherent film.
The thing is, I saw this film in the best possible atmosphere. I saw it on the midnight release in cinemas. There were people dressed up. Like, the atmosphere was great, and it's just a shame the film wasn't.
Yeah,
Like, there were so many like Harley Quinns and Jokers there. I was like, oh, I bet you feel like a twat now.
Yeah, it should have just been the Suicide Squad going after the Joker.
Yeah, I remember reading an interview with David Ayer, and he was like, in hindsight, I probably should have made Joker the bad guy. And it's like, oh, in hindsight.
It's all Amanda Waller's fault as well, isn't it? It's all it's just because she lets Enchantress loose or something, and then she sends the Suicide Squad to go to cover up her fuck up. So it's not really like even a proper mission, really. I don't think.
I was gonna say it's like you don't need the Suicide Squad if you don't put them together, because they caused the whole problems in the first place, which isn't really what they do, because the whole point of them is if they cause problems, you just sack them off, you get rid of them.
The best thing about the whole Suicide Squad is, you know, it introduces them, and they've obviously spent a lot of money on marketing for like each person to have their own poster and stuff. And I remember there was loads of like posters and stuff that feature the villain Slipknot on them, who's like the guy who can grapple and climb, and that's his abilities. He's really good at climbing and stuff. And the first thing he does in the film is punch a woman in the face, and then the second thing he does is go to use his powers to climb, and his head explodes.
I get what they were trying to do, in that they were like, oh, no, we mean business, like, we're going to kill people off. Yeah, you killed off someone that never heard of. It doesn't mean anything.
Yeah.
Like, who gives a shit? No one's favourite character in that film was Slipknot before going in. No one was disappointed when he died. However, if you do want a really great Suicide Squad film, Assault on Arkham, the animated film, is exactly the kind of thing that a Suicide Squad film should be.
It's really good. I remember really enjoying that one.
It's just DC all over, isn't it? They've really got their... Yeah, it's great. Like, DC have got their animated stuff down pat. They just need to bring that to live action.
Maybe they should get the people who write the animated ones to write the films that they want to sell people on.
Doesn't
work. Are you looking forward to the Suicide Squad?
I'm so excited for the Suicide Squad, because it looks like it's actually going to be good. But the problem is, what if it's the same thing again? What if I hype it up so much that it can only ever disappoint me again?
Personally, I really want it to be shit, just so James can hate it again, just for my own amusement.
No, let me love something.
Well, my favourite thing was, like you said, Danny. They were like, "Oh yeah, we're gonna go hard, and we're gonna do our Guardians of the Galaxy." And then it didn't work out, so they were like, well, we still want to have our Guardians of the Galaxy, so how are we going to get it off the ground? And they're like, I know, we'll just hire the guy that did Guardians of the Galaxy.
Yeah, that's exactly what they've done. And chances are it'll probably be a pretty decent sort of photocopy of Guardians of the Galaxy with a few added little bits.
Go on, who wants to say who else has been disappointed by a film in their life? I feel like this feels like more like therapy than a podcast now.
I'm just gonna put my feet up.
Oh, what?
Go on, I'll talk about the one at the top of my list, because I started thinking about, like, when the idea was pitched, I started thinking about this, and I was like, I've been disappointed by a lot of films, but to be fully disappointed, I had to have gone in expecting something great and come out with something that wasn't. So, you know, I wanted to talk about, like, Assassin's Creed again, but I didn't go in expecting a lot and was still disappointed with that one.
I expect nothing, and I'm still let down.
Whereas, one film that I went in with super high expectations and came out... it took me 2 weeks to develop even a sentence that could describe the film, was A Cure for Wellness.
Oh, right. Okay.
I don't know if any of you have seen A Cure for Wellness.
Seen it. I feel like I've heard of it, but I've not actually seen it.
It's Gore Verbinski, isn't it?
It is. It's Gore Verbinski who did the Pirates of the Caribbean films.
Okay.
he decided to not do a Pirates of the Caribbean film and do a horror film. And I saw the first trailer, and it was sort of creepy and eerie, and it looked like a very slow burn, mystery-centric horror about a mental institution that has something deeply going wrong with it. And I was like, right, that's it. I'm not going to watch any more trailers because I'm scared that the studio are going to push this too much and spoil something. So I'll just go in knowing everything that I know off that trailer, which is barely anything. So I went in and I sat down and I mean my initial review of that film, the only word I could say to describe it afterwards was eels.
Eels.
It was, basically, it was the first bit of that film really interesting. It's sort of intriguing, very slow burn, and pulls you into this mystery. Then it gets to a point where I thought the film was going to end. Leave some stuff in the air, sort of leave you to interpret some of the stuff that you've seen yourself. But it didn't end. It then carried on for a further 45 minutes, where it over-explained the mystery to the point where every single detail had been forced into your mind, and then ended with a giant CGI Pirates of the Caribbean sword fight through a burning mansion.
Right. So it sounds like it's just not got the tone right. Like it's
it's
chopping and changing.
The last 45 minutes legitimately ruins the entire film.
So if they literally did a hard cut at the 45 minutes left mark, do you think that would still work as a good film?
I think so, yeah, because it...
Just stop watching it from there, then.
Yeah, I mean, it's a very nice mirror sequence, because it's basically centered around this character who's come to sort of interview the head of the institute for a newspaper article, I think it is. And he comes in and he's talking to some of the patients, and there's this sort of girl sat on a bench, and he walks over and he's like, there's clearly something wrong with this place, so why don't you just leave? And she turns, looks up at him and goes, why would I ever want to leave? And smiles creepily. And then the entire film goes on. He slowly gets introduced to the institute and how they fix people. And he sort of loses his mind, and there's a point where she comes over, having sort of stopped taking her meds and sort of snapped out of it a bit, and goes, come on, we've got to get out of here, we've got to leave. And he looks up at her from the same bench and goes, why would I ever want to leave? And smiles. That's where I thought it was going to end.
Right, okay.
But no, it carries on for another hour. It's ridiculous.
There are so many films that need to know when to end.
Yeah. It's two films that, again, like Suicide Squad, that have been spliced together. It's like a slow burn horror at the beginning, and then literally Pirates of the Caribbean at the end, right down to the fact that the bad guy peels his face off and has a horrible CGI skull face, and then they have a sword fight through a burning down mansion and escape on a boat. And I was like, You've done 4 Pirates of the Caribbean films, and then we're like, I want to do something that's not Pirates of the Caribbean, and then made a Pirates of the Caribbean film.
It sounds like the wrong director for the sort of material, doesn't it?
Yeah. The worst thing is, I'm pretty sure he wrote it as well.
Okay. Do you think the added this stuff at the end might have been like the studio saying you need to tap into your well? Or do you think that was just from the plan?
I was going to say, I'm not sure if it was his plan, or maybe the studio watched his initial cut and were like, it's good, but we hired Gore Verbinski, the guy who did Pirates of the Caribbean, so we want this to relate to people who really like Pirates of the Caribbean.
Yeah.
And he's like, but I've already made 4 of those. We have those already.
Yeah.
It's like, I've already made 4 of those, so why would I do that again?
I just as you were talking then, because when you were mentioning the trailers, I feel like this is such a big thing with film disappointments. It's the trailers. Do they catch the right tone, and do they show too much? I feel like they're the two main issues that lead to disappointment for me with films. Either like what you were saying, it makes you think like it's going to be this tone, and then it's not. So it's like, oh, I didn't expect that. That's not what I came here for. Or a thing that Marvel have been awful for. All the big set pieces are in the trailer, so you finish and go, I enjoyed that, but I kind of knew a lot of it already, which is just a shame.
The worst thing that Marvel, in fact, superhero films in general, are bad for it. Because I noticed it in Wonder Woman, was they always use the final shot of the film in the trailer.
Yeah, Amazing Spider-Man 2 did it as well.
Yeah, Amazing Spider-Man 2 did it with the
that's an
Rhino
infamous
stuff. Wonder Woman did it with the flying stuff. I'm pretty sure Homecoming did it. It used like the final swinging shot in the trailer. It's like, stop using that shot in the trailer.
Homecoming and Ragnarok in particular had all of the big reveals and big bits. Again, talking of Wonder Woman, they threw in the fact that she rocks up in Batman vs Superman in the trailer.
Yes. I think they just don't trust. They didn't trust the material.
I think you're right.
And they just chuck it all in to think, oh, we'll throw everything in to show all that we've got, and hopefully people turn up.
Yeah, it's...
Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't.
Yeah, I mean, it got me into A Cure for Wellness, but I don't think I've ever sat down and watched it since. And
it is a good trailer.
Literally all I can say... Yeah. Literally all I can say to people is eels.
Yeah, why are you saying eels? What does that mean? You cryptic bastard.
It's part of the plot. It's
explain.
Well, in the over-explanation, they explain that all of these people are insane because of eels.
Wow. You should watch the Mighty Boosh episode that involves eels. You should watch that. That's pretty good.
Should I go next? Should I talk about mine then, yeah?
Take us away.
Because then we'll try and get through mine at the end.
So mine is, it may come as no surprise to Ben. I think he knows what I'm going to go for. This film, it's a little bit cliched for me really, but I couldn't really ignore it because it's sort of like the original disappointment of my life, let alone films. Like it ushered in, I think this film ushered in an age of like cynicism for me, that lasted decades. This was kind of the trigger that brought that aspect of exactly because previously I'd been a relatively outgoing, positive little kid, and then I watched Star Wars The Phantom Menace.
I thought we might get this one.
Yeah, unfortunately, a little bit cliched. It's a lot of people's most disappointing film, obviously, but it really did disappoint me a hell of a lot because I remember, number one, how much hype there was for this film. It was off the scale for the time. It was off the scale. By today's standards, we're used to hype. We're used to the whole hype machine, the trailers, the planned hype. We'll release teaser trailer A, we'll release official trailer B, and it's a whole machine. But back then it was a little bit more simple. The internet wasn't as widely available.
Well, yeah, because didn't people buy tickets to other films just to watch the Phantom Menace trailer and then leave? That's mental when you think about it.
Absolutely, because most people didn't have broadband internet. I think we were still on 56k, which is like the type of internet that you use and it blocks the phone line.
Yeah,
that's what Ben's using at the moment. Yeah. And so it was really difficult to get hold of the trailer. It was available online, but most people thought, oh, let's go and it's at the front of such and such a film. Let's go and see the trailer that way. Such was the hype for a new Star Wars film. I was so into Star Wars as well. It was like I was really into the original trilogy. I'd heard that they were making a new one, and I got even more into it as a result. I read like the extended universe books that I'd released up to that point. And I remember the premiere of the trailer in the UK, right? And it was like, does anyone remember The Big Breakfast? Does anyone remember that show?
Don't think so.
It was probably a bit too old for you guys, but like it was like a morning television show, like a breakfast TV show basically on Channel 4, and it was kind of a little bit more comedy type. Like it was more fun basically, and I really liked The Big Breakfast. YouTube it. There's plenty of footage out there. But anyway, they had like an entire 2-hour show devoted to Star Wars because they were going to show the premiere. And like before school, it was like a Friday, I think, and it was like I got up, started watching The Big Breakfast, and it was Star Wars Day. They had Ray Park in the garden, and he was doing like lightsaber skills and stuff. They had fans talking about Star Wars. They had all sorts going on. It was like really good, like proper festival atmosphere just for the trailer. And then they released the trailer, and I watched it, and I videotaped it, and watched it again and again and again and again, and I was like, this is incredible, like this is going to be so good. That first trailer is great. Like it's like, this is going to be good,
every legend has a beginning. It's sick.
Exactly. And the hype was just through the roof with everyone was like really, really looking forward to this film. I remember going to like the local library and going onto PCs there to access the internet, and going onto StarWars.com and printing out pages from the website because it had like loads of lore stuff, like about like the different creatures and different droids that were going to be in Phantom Menace and stuff, and all the characters. I was like, I'm going to print out and like find out. Anyway, the film came out. I remember I watched it. I didn't watch it at the cinema first because it came out in America first, like a good few months before the UK, I think. So I got a dodgy copy on VHS. And it wasn't the best quality, but I was like hyped for it. I was like, yes, I've got the Phantom Menace. I'm going to watch it. I've got the VHS. Stuck it into my video player. I was like, yes, this is going to be amazing. I can't believe it. And I watched the film, and I watched it. I was like, yeah, this is good. Yeah, I'm enjoying it. Oh, they have the lightsaber fights were good, and Jar Jar Binks, and Darth Maul was cool, and I like this. But I remember like the credits rolling. And even then, thinking, something's wrong with this film. This doesn't feel like Star Wars. I can't put my finger on it, but something's really, really badly wrong with this film. And it was like, I realised that I just entered a state of denial. And it was like, it wasn't just disappointing, it was straight up like tragic how bad the film was, and how...
You were picking up that something was wrong because your midichlorian count was just so high.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, it was like for ages I couldn't put my finger on it, and it was like, but then it sunk in, and I watched it again and again. I was like, came to the conclusion, ultimately, that this film was actually really bad. Like it just failed on so many. Like the characters were so dry. Jar Binks was so boring. The plot was weird as hell. It was like, it's meant for children, but it's about trade and politics, and it's like, what? And it was just not Star Wars the way I remembered it. All the magic had gone, and it was just so disappointing. And I think everyone felt that way. For like, everyone felt like that about the Phantom Menace. And then the rest of the films came out, the other prequel films, and that kind of idea was just like compounded because George Lucas never really rescued it from the Phantom Menace. Really,
I don't know. Revenge of the Sith is good.
I was just about to say, you know what's the most disappointing thing about the Phantom Menace is that Attack of the Clones is somehow worse.
Exactly. Yeah, that's just it. It's like that. The Phantom Menace at least used like practical sets and locations, and wasn't as obsessed with green screen like the Attack of the Clones. There are several scenes where it's obviously just two people on a soundstage,
like with Droid Factory is bad.
Yeah, exactly, and it just looks so fake. And the best thing about the original trilogy was all the practical effects and like the tangibility of the whole universe. It felt like more of a more real place. Whereas like the prequels, it just felt like a video game, and
with all that hype though, like it was so built up. Do you think anything was ever really going to live up to that though? Because that sounds like on another level.
I think a coherent good film would have sufficed, and it's like Phantom Menace is shockingly bad.
Oh yeah, it's okay. Like,
it's shocking.
But then again, I was just about to say, I'm coming at Phantom Menace from someone who didn't grow up with the original Star Wars. Yeah. I got into them much later in life. Like, they were my first films, so like I just kind of took them as is. I expected nothing from them.
Yeah. I mean, I think at least with the other two films, Attack of the Clones and Revenge of the Sith, at least there's something a bit campy and a bit fun going on there, and there's like, obviously it's become very memeable in recent years, and people have kind of warmed towards the prequels because of like the fact that
childhood,
the meme potential with them. Yeah, and a lot of people grew up with them who I wasn't really growing up with them. They were part of my sort of teenage years and turning into a cynical, bitter adult. This was the first stage of disappointment for me, I think. In terms of, it made me realise that like hype is real and it doesn't necessarily, and people lie to you, and like stuff doesn't always like work out the way you expect it and stuff. And it's like that was my first kind of lesson in that respect. Phantom Menace.
Watching, because before I went to go see Rise of Skywalker, I watched through all of the Star Wars films in a day, and it was the first time I'd watched the prequels in like nearly 10 years probably. And I was a part of a lot of the sort of like Facebook groups and like online groups who would just talk about them, and I remember one thing that came up a lot was like how bad the CGI is in Attack of the Clones, and I was like, I mean, it's not perfect, but I don't remember it being that bad. And then I watched Attack of the Clones and Phantom Menace and was like, oh my god, this is horrible. Why do the clone troopers look like that?
You are difficult to look at.
It looks like a straight video game, doesn't it?
What's wrong with your
face?
It
looks worse than a video. Like the Star Wars games that came out at that time looked better than that.
What's wrong with your face? That at least that was a person in a costume, though, Ben. It wasn't just some CGI monstrosity like that. What the hell? In Attack of the Clones, that chef thing that meets.
I think you mean Dexter
Obi-Wan.
Jetster.
Dexter Jetster, just like
put some respect on his name.
Yeah.
Like it's clearly you.
What do you know?
Into a tennis ball and a stick, and like. But yeah. I think that's kind of why they had to do. That's kind of what they had to do what they did with The Force Awakens, though, because the hype was back with The Force Awakens, and they knew they had to play it safe and just make a competent film, a fun film, and that's what they did. And that's why Force Awakens was so safe, and that it has its critics for that reason. The sequels are another story, good lord. But yeah.
It is kind of mad how differently they approached Phantom Menace and Force Awakens. Like Force Awakens feels very related to the original films, like not just in plot but in like style and like just I think it's more maybe like props and ships and stuff. Like it feels more related to them.
Sure.
Whereas it feels like with Phantom Menace they would actively try and like let's do something new. Like we're going to kind of distance ourselves from those. And it's like
to George's credit,
people love those.
every film did something new, and
Yes.
it's different villains, different locations, different vehicles. That's George's. He always tried to move forward with Star Wars, which is the total opposite of the Disney era. People like The Mandalorian, but there's nothing really new in The Mandalorian. It's just rehashed stuff done well. But the whole Disney era is rehashing, man, for the most part.
In a weird way, though, I respect the prequels because they were really trying to they did try and do something different. It was George Lucas's vision, and for better or worse, at least it's one guy's kind of like ideas and not really compromised.
They're bad, but at least they're coherent.
Like a 90-minute pod race that was
At
least they took a big swing and a miss.
Yeah. Apparently, the original. I don't know if it's the original script or the original cut for The Phantom Menace was a 4.5-hour film and 90 minutes of it were pod racing.
I just don't believe
that is insane. Surely he never that's got to be like a draft. Like surely he never intended to release that. I know he's a madman, but come on now.
If it is a cut and someone still has the footage out there, I would absolutely love for someone to put the 4-hour version together just to see what that would look like. Like I just want to see what George Lucas had in his head when he wrote that film to see if it makes it more coherent or if it's just like 30 minutes of action and then a 90-minute pod race, and the rest of it is all politics.
At least the prequels as well, they gave us the behind-the-scenes DVD extras are really good, and they gave us...
I know where you're going with this.
They gave us memeable moments within that, but also the prequels gave us the Mr. Plinkett Red Letter Media reviews, which is... They are the definitive... If you're a Star Wars fan, you must watch the Mr. Plinkett reviews. They are... I think they are essential viewing.
Yeah. I was going to say, actually, like... That the moment I watched those Plinkett reviews is very cathartic.
Yeah.
Because like a lot of people agree have a similar opinion as me as to how let down they felt with the Phantom Menace, and then the Plinkett reviews just condensed no one quite knew what was wrong with the Phantom Menace. We were 10 years out from it. You know, we were still recovering from the prequel trilogy as a whole and this new world of the new Star Wars, and then the Plinkett reviews came along, and it was a very kind of like cathartic experience because it just condensed everything, everyone's fear, everyone's complaints, everyone's kind of confusion. It made it coherent and
specific details of why it's bad on every level.
Yeah, I don't think we necessarily like this whole idea of like YouTube criticism and film criticism, video essays and things like that. The Plinkett reviews, Red Letter Media started all that, and maybe we've got so in a way, if it wasn't for the Phantom Menace, guys, none of this would be here.
I've always said this about every one of the prequels. Like, they may not be great as a whole film, but each one of them has something great about them. Like Phantom Menace, not a great film, but it does have Darth Maul, it does have Duel of the Fates, the pod racing stuff is good. I really like Qui-Gon Jinn.
He's really fucking boring. He's so boring. There's nothing to Qui-Gon Jinn.
I just think he's a nice guy. He's nice. He's wise.
Just a nice guy. He's a Jedi, man. You want him to have some character. You want him to have some like power about him, some sort of charisma about him.
I thought he did.
He's just a bloke. He's just a guy.
Maybe it's just Liam Neeson's voice tricked me.
Definitely.
The whole film's one big Jedi mind trick.
He should have been like some proper likable guy, so that when he did die, you were, oh no, now Qui-Gon's dead. What's Obi-Wan gonna do?
Who's dead?
Like, sorry,
I'm never gonna get over how you say Qui-Gon.
Qui-Gon.
Palpatine.
Palpatine. What do I actually say?
You say Palpatine and Qui-Gon Jinn.
Palpatine.
It's
Qui-Gon. I
think earlier you said like Bar Jar Binks as well. I think earlier you said that.
Yeah, I think you said Jar Bar Jinx.
Bar Jar Jinx. I didn't say I said Jar Jar Binks.
I don't think you this is a mispronunciation. I think you just had a slip of the tongue. You called him some Jar Bar Jinx or something like that.
Jar Bar Jinx. Better name.
Go on, then we'll move on from Star Wars. Ben, what film disappointed you the most?
I don't know if it disappointed me the most, but it did disappoint me. As when I was a child, this was the first one I fully kind of clocked on. Because the prequels, I was about 4, and the pretty colours washed over me as a 4-year-old, and I enjoyed the pod race. I didn't think about the film as a whole. But in 2006, Bryan Singer came off X-Men 2. He was on a hot streak. He left the X-Men to resurrect Superman.
Oh, yeah.
I thought you were going to say Last Stand.
No. He was so coming off X-Men 2. He said, "I'm going to resurrect the Christopher Reeve universe of Superman." And as a little boy who liked superhero films, I think this is the first time somebody has returned to the well in terms of films. You know, because it hasn't, they didn't return to Michael Keaton after decades. This is the first time. So we got Bryan Singer's on the hot streak, the Christopher Reeve universe. The suit looked pretty good, especially at the time. If you're living in that spandex leather post-Matrix era, the suit looks pretty good. Kevin Spacey was Lex Luthor at the time. That was a good thing.
It's a great casting.
he took away the actor of Cyclops to save because he was not in the X-Men movies barely, and thought, well, if he's taking him with him, and he's like, I'm gonna do this, and the trailer looks amazing, like the gunshot in the eye, the plane sequence looked astounding. It was Superman with modern special effects, and it looked really good. And it was just like, oh my god, it's actually Superman. It's the music. I think I'm like, how old am I at this point? I think I'm 10 years old. This is astounding. I can't believe I'm gonna see this again. And it's the most fucking boring film like in the world. It's so boring. And it's just like all the cast are. I haven't seen the film in years. It's maybe worth the rewatch. I think all the cast are pretty poor. I don't know about Spacey, but like, it's all really poor. And they even like had old, unused Marlon Brando dialogue.
I don't mind Brandon Routh's Superman.
I can't remember as much. I can't really remember, but like Lois Lane especially, she is not Margot Kidder. She is not in that. That actress.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, she was the wrong actress for it, and it's just like this boring film where he's like moping around, just the whole film creeping on Lois Lane, staring at her from afar, and it's another Lex Luthor land plot which we had in the first Superman film, and it's just like, oh, it's just like so. I just couldn't believe like Bryan Singer left. He's like, oh, he's doing X-Men 2. Oh my god, he's doing Superman, and then he just makes the most boring film, and it's just like, oh no. It made me really sad as a kid. That was like, what?
Yeah.
There's a reason they put the plane and the bullet in the trailer.
It's all there was.
Bits.
Yeah.
That was it. I was like, oh man.
See, I also remember this film fairly vividly, because I remember at the time my mum, big Superman fan, she was like, right, I'll sit you down and we'll watch the first 3 like Christopher Reeve Supermans, and then we'll go see this. So we watched the Christopher Reeve ones. I really enjoyed them. I was like, cool, let's go see Superman Returns. And we went to go see it at the IMAX. And I'd never been to the IMAX before, so this was my first IMAX experience, watching Superman Returns. It was going to be great, because, all the special effects blown up big on the screen, 3D glasses, it was going to be fantastic. They did that IMAX thing that they used to do back in the day, where a guy used to stand at the front and tell you how great the IMAX was.
I'd forgotten about that.
And then he added on the end, he was like, because of the technology and how new it is, that not all the film can be in 3D, but don't worry, we'll tell you when to take on and off your 3D glasses. So not only did I have the joy of watching the worst Superman film in the world, maybe, I don't know, Quest for Peace is
I was going to say
also a good contender. But not only did I have the joy of being disappointed by that Superman film, but also it would be like a talking sequence, one of the really boring like interactions between Clark and Lois or whatever, and you'd have your 3D glasses on, and then all of a sudden the Superman music would kick in. It'd be like, duh, 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 duh. Can you please remove your 3D glasses?
Oh my
Duh,
god.
duh, duh.
That's awful.
It was awful. It was horrible.
Why do they have to like pause the audio? Sure, they can just have like a little subtitle, like, oh, remove glasses now.
They were like, a little picture did come up in the corner, and it's like the little picture was enough.
Oh, that's awful.
That's terrible. Better than the film, though, I suppose.
It made for that memory, which I look back and laugh on. Just the fact that you'd watch an entire boring conversation in 3D, and then all of a sudden it'd be like, and now Superman's going to stop a plane, so you're going to have to remove your 3D glasses because we couldn't turn it in 3D.
I feel that would be the best bit to be in 3D. Because I think, like, when you said this, Ben, I was like, oh, really? I don't remember it being that bad, but when I think about it, all I really remember is the plane sequence.
Yeah.
That's all it's got.
Because it's such a nothing film.
There's nothing else. He doesn't punch anything in the whole film.
Yeah, literally the rest.
I think you might be right, yeah.
There's nothing for him to fight. There's no... It's just like...
I was going to say... People criticise Superman 3, but even Superman 3 had that great bit where he fights himself in that scrapyard.
Yeah, and he's at the bar flicking the peanuts.
Yes.
It's great, and it's Richard Pryor's in it.
Well, I think we've talked about the films that have already disappointed us enough. Probably, I think we can push that to one side now. So let's just prepare for future disappointment. And for our dessert this week, we thought we'd discuss the hypothetical is of all the films that are coming out in 2021, or mate, we'll push it further. Any film that's been announced and we know is coming, what's the way it could disappoint you the most? Like, what would they have to do to be the biggest disappointment for you? Does anyone want to take us away, or shall I just go for mine?
You go, mate.
Me go. I'll go. Okay. For me, I'll stick to my bread and butter, the classics that I love. So I'm going to go down the superhero route. And it's a film that we've already mentioned on an excited pod, on the most anticipated one. So, clearly there's the hype there. I'm ready for it to come out. I think for me, the way they could really disappoint me with Black Widow is if it's just a bit generic. Like, we've waited so long for it now. Actually give us some sort of like Winter Soldier vibes. Like, I want them to lean into the spy thriller type thing. So I just think if they go down the route of, it's just a bit like every other superhero film, then I would be quite disappointed by that. I would like them to take this opportunity to do something a bit different, do a new form and genre, and run with that like they did with Winter Soldier. And Scarlett Johansson was great in that, so she can be great in this as well.
Because I think that's exactly what they'll do.
This is why I'm kind of putting it in here, because I am already a little bit nervous that's what we're going to get.
I do think it will end up being fairly generic. Hopefully they will sort of bring back that sort of Winter Soldier vibe and lean into the spy, espionage, thrillery stuff a bit more. But from what the trailer shows, I think they're just leaning. It looks like they're leaning more into the superhero action than the spy thriller.
I don't want a complete spy film because it's Black Widow. There's no point doing a Marvel film if you're not going to have some superhero tropes. So I'm fine if there's a big final set piece that goes balls to the wall and something like that. But I would like tell you what, the main thing is I want great hand-to-hand combat, because that's what Captain America gave us, and we've seen Black Widow do that. Get some really good choreography in there. Bring in the person who did Birds of Prey, because the choreography is great in that film.
Yeah, because I think she's fighting people that are experienced as her, aren't they? Other Black Widows, so you'd think there'd be lots of flips
really
and
so.
The leg lock around the neck and the
the
tumbles.
They're all just doing that to each other.
Yeah, everyone's just doing that. Yeah,
I'm pretty sure that the team that did Birds of Prey is the same guys that do the John Wick films.
Yes, I think so. Yeah.
You wouldn't. Well, they must have taken an off day for Birds of Prey. Fucking hell, they didn't put any effort in that one, did they?
The stunts are good, man. The fight
that
scene where
it's not John Wick, though, is it?
No, it's not John Wick.
It's not John Wick
because it's not Margot Robbie doing it. So there's only so much they can do. But the scene where she attacks the police lockup's really good.
It's not John Wick, though, is it?
No, because it's not Keanu Reeves.
Yeah, I was gonna say
he'll appear later.
There's only so far you can go, but you can't. There's only so far you can go, but you're not gonna be able to one up a fight with many sharp implements in a knife shop or whatever it was in John Wick 3.
God, they're great films. Maybe I'll just watch them. Fuck Black Widow.
Black Widow's interesting. I kind of have faith in Marvel because they're in this. Is this technically their first phase? Is it phase 4?
It's the first film of phase 4. Yeah.
First film of phase 4. So they have the potential to kind of steer the direction slightly and maybe do something a little bit different and maybe really lean into that spy aspect. This is it's a prequel, obviously. So how far back are we going? Is it full on origin
between
story?
Civil War and Infinity War?
Yes. Oh right, but I assume we're going to get some origin story stuff though, right? And the interesting thing with Black Widow is that she apparently has a very dark history, and I'd quite like to see some of that. I really hope they show some dark kind of stuff that she's had to do to for whoever she was working for, because she was I don't really get how the superpowers work in the Marvel universe.
She doesn't have any.
Was she Russian or?
She's not got any.
It's not got any superpowers, but it It did, though, didn't it? There is still like a rivalry between the United States and Russia, for instance.
Oh,
right?
I thought you meant like superpowers like
shit.
Hulk and, Captain
Sorry,
Marvel.
no. Yeah.
To the two countries.
No,
I don't know. I'd assume it follows the same as.
because she was Russian, right? She was like she was Russian. So
she's a Russian like spy and assassin in the comic books, and she ends up at Shield.
So I hope we get some, moral grey areas in there that sort of colour the character of Black Widow at all. Will you be disappointed, James, if they bring if it turns out she's not dead?
Yes,
and it's just all
actually,
a big joke.
I think you've actually just corrected my answer. Yes, I think that would be the biggest way this film could disappoint me, is if they just scrap her end in Endgame and go, she was alive the whole time. And, like, they find some way to bring her back, because like let death mean something.
Body swap.
Funny though, wouldn't it? No, it wouldn't be funny.
Would you be disappointed if the after credit scene isn't like something from a future film that we've not seen anything from, like Spider-Man or Strange or maybe Falcon?
It'd be nice if they set something up. Yeah. In summary, Black Widow could disappoint me in many, many ways.
if David Harbour isn't good in it, then what's the point?
If David Harbour dies in it, then what's the point?
Because Florence Pugh's going to be great in it, and she's going to die in it.
No, I'm calling it now. The after credits scene with is going to be a Florence Pugh centric. She's going to, her hinting at her joining the Avengers.
Yep, I think there's a good chance of that, and I'm okay with it. I'd love that. I want to see more Florence Pugh. Go on then, who wants to take us away and tell us how they're going to be disappointed in 2021?
Not me, because of my recording.
In a similar vein to Phantom Menace, this film was released in the same year, the original, and that is The Matrix,
of course, yeah.
And I really enjoyed the Matrix film when it first came out. It was very new and different, and I thought it was great. It was probably one of my favourite films at the time. I really liked it. And then obviously the sequels came out and they were sort of not as good. But I'm really looking forward to Matrix 4 because I feel like there's potential there to rescue that franchise and do something a bit different with it. So I'd be disappointed in Matrix 4 massively if it was just a rehash of either the first film or it started doing the quasi-religious kind of really quite pretentious stuff like it did in the second and third films, where it really overcomplicated the plot and tried to be very mystical and very kind of, I don't know what it was trying to do really. Like it was trying to be a metaphor for Buddhism or something, which it's a good idea in theory if you can pull it off, but they weren't very subtle with it, and I don't want to see the film necessarily go hard into that direction. I don't want to see them make the same mistakes, basically.
Yeah.
I mean, I called it in a previous podcast, and I'm going to say it again. I really do think that The Matrix 4 is going to be the Force Awakens of the Matrix films. It's just going to be the first film, but a little bit different.
Force Awakens made a lot of money. Film studios pay attention to that kind of stuff.
I'd be more disappointed if the world of the Matrix hasn't evolved. I think now we're not in the 90s anymore. If that hasn't moved on, and like I don't think I want the agents to just be agents the same in the suits again. I'd like to have some sort of evolution. I think they might. I think they maybe can't resist the agents. I think it'd be a shame if the rest of it hasn't evolved, and hopefully they don't wear black cloaks, and something else happens. And
they're absolutely going to wear black.
I was going to say, like, to be fair, I've only seen the first one. I've watched it once, so I'm not as big a fan as you guys. But like, from someone a bit more outside, that's like iconic stuff. So I think they will put it in. I don't think it's a bad thing.
I think they should move it on though. They should try.
Move the world on. Yeah.
I reckon it's just gonna, the film's gonna open, and because it's gonna have some sort of like poetic repetition of the Matrix all over again, they're just gonna be back in the 90s.
Yeah. Do you think they're gonna really sort of properly like emulate the original film and do really obvious stuff like bullet time, where with an agent dodging bullets and the camera's 360 degree kind of camera that they did in the first one?
100% going to do like callback sequences like that. Yeah,
I think the one with Trinity in the first, I think that's in the first like 5 minutes of the film, and it's actually literally like multiple cameras arranged in a circle around Carrie-Anne Moss. I think, and it's just each one takes takes a slightly different picture. And it looks a little bit. It's still kind of, to be honest, a friend of mine said, "Oh, they watched it the other day, and that one shot looks really, really dated."
Sure.
I watched it back, and it's not too
I don't
bad.
remember thinking it was that bad.
I think it's
I
too
watched it
bad.
last year for the first time. But my thing is, it's like respect the time that came out and how much effort they went to. Like they tried something with that shot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That film, it won Best Oscar for special effects, and it beat Phantom Menace. I remember being really upset at the time because I was still like holding a candle for Phantom Menace, thinking it is good, it is. The special effects were good. Turns out, not even the special effects were as good as The Matrix.
I was going to say, I do absolutely think they're going to do more of the spinning round and stuff, because weird franchise to compare it to, but if you remember if you've seen it, if you remember the first Saw film, they do that like where she's got the bear trap on her face. They do that like rapid where she's moving and it's all dead glitchy and they spin around her head several times. That is in every single Saw film after that point, because everyone was like, that one shot's really good, so they just did it again. And again,
it becomes tropes of the series.
Yeah.
But the thing is with Bullet Time though, if I was like the Wachowskis, I'd be thinking, do we want to do Bullet Time and do we want to do all that kind of stuff we did in the original? Because Bullet Time especially it's been replicated so many times in different films, video games, like Max Payne. The whole like gameplay revolves around Bullet Time. Yeah. It's a good game, but like it's been in everything. Slowing down time and shooting stuff is very, very kind of cliche now.
Yeah, they need to move on.
Did they really want to do that again? Yeah, is it like it's just? I'd be having a real conversation about, should we not have any Bullet Time?
Yeah.
I think people would be very disappointed if there was no Bullet Time.
Yeah, it's a balance, isn't it?
Absolutely.
Just like I said in the Wonder Woman review, we're on the end of the 80s nostalgia now. 80s nostalgia is definitely phasing out. So now it's time for 90s nostalgia. Boom! Bullet Time and everything.
It's like, why do people like The Matrix though? Is The Matrix good because of a camera angle, or is it good because of its world and the characters and the story? So you'd hope they would lean towards the latter. Not the camera angles.
I'd say they go. I'd say that the story and the lore of the Matrix and the way the Matrix films are shot go hand in hand, though.
I'd also be disappointed if the real world that everyone apparently truly exists in. I'd be disappointed if that actually turns out to be the real world. I want it to be
another
fake.
Matrix.
I want it to be another Matrix. I do want them to do that and confirm that like fan theory.
Yeah.
I mean, that's definitely the direction that they seem to be going in at the end of the first Matrix, because he stops those little squid things in the real world. He just holds his hand out. And stops those squid things, and he's not actually hooked into the Matrix, and he's just a guy. He's just, Neo or whatever. So it was weird how he was able to do that unless it really was still the Matrix.
I hope though, because I feel like because Morpheus apparently isn't in it, or Lawrence Fishburne isn't in it, and Hugo Weaving isn't returning as Agent Smith. That kind of does give me a bit of hope that maybe they've got something different planned and a different take, that they don't feel the need to rehash everybody.
Yeah.
Unlike Star Wars, so
Or Ben, is it going to be exactly Agent Smith, but because he's new and upgraded, he has a younger face?
Yeah, a different actor, and
I reckon they'll.
We'll see.
I reckon they'll choose a younger actor to do another Agent Smith type character, and I reckon that the reason that Lawrence Fishburne isn't back is because Keanu Reeves in this repetition world, Neo is now the new Morpheus. Now Neo is looking for his Neo, if that makes sense. Yeah, he's looking for the one. I'd
be disappointed if Neo and Trinity don't have a role to play in the plot, if they don't affect the plot, because that would be a real shame to bring them back.
Neo definitely will. I think there's a risk Trinity will be a bit part character, but like Neo will be.
He's really important.
Do we think they're going to try and make the name be an anagram again and call this one Eon?
Okay, let's move on. I will say, I talk about camera angles and this stuff. I think I'll be a bit disappointed if the Matrix isn't tinted green again. I really like that it was tinted green.
You think they'd have to?
Come on, surely you got to make it green.
Oh, it definitely will.
Surely you got to have the code, right? Do you have to have the code? Surely, right?
You definitely have to have the code.
Surely,
that's how the film opens with the code.
Surely,
it's like, yes, we're back. It's Matrix.
Surely, get the theme. I want another Rage Against the Machine song. Another, throw it in.
I'm telling you, 90s nostalgia. It's
Limp Bizkit's coming back.
It's about to all come back. It's going to be great. Guy Fieri's going to love it because he's still living in the 90s.
Go on, Christian. What film do you think is going to disappoint you most in 2021?
What film do I think is going to disappoint? Well,
oh no, sorry. How would a film disappoint you the most?
There was a couple I could talk about here, but I think I'm going to go with Candyman. Because it was meant to come out this year. It was meant to come out last year, obviously, and now it's going to come out this year. And I'm really hoping that it's going to be like a new sort of revival of this great character. You know, they're bringing Tony Todd back, who's great. The problem is that the trailer doesn't, even though they're bringing Tony Todd back and you hear his voice, the trailer doesn't sort of specifically state that he still is Candyman.
I was gonna say, I felt the trailer hints that the main character, the lead role, is becoming the Candyman.
So yeah, I'm scared. I'm scared for two reasons. Number one, one of the ways they could disappoint me is by sort of reducing Tony Todd to a literal background cameo, and number two, is if they do what they've done with many other sort of horror icons in some cases, and just turn them into a generic sort of slasher character. They're just a it's one of the things that I've noticed a few films. One of the ones that I can pull from is I sat down and watched the really, really horrendous Slender Man film, which came way later than Slender Man was popular, but the most disappointing aspect of that entire film is the fact that they have been like, oh, it's Slender Man, but then they've ignored all of Slender Man's lore and the stuff written about him, and it's just a generic sort of ghost demonic film. And I think the way that they could disappoint me the most with Candyman is if I come out and I'm like, yeah, that was just a generic
he's interchangeable
horror
with
slasher.
anyone else.
You could put an entirely new character in there and it would be the same movie.
I've not seen the original. What is his like MO? Like what makes him different from these other generic ones then?
It's weird because Candyman is, unlike other sort of slashers, he's sympathetic.
Yeah, he's not really out to kill you.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
He's not out to kill you. He
kind of it is a different one. He's not fully like, he's not Freddy and Jason or Michael Myers.
That's what worries me about this trailer, is the fact that the trailer for the new one, it's like, oh, if you say Candyman in the mirror, he'll just come out and kill you, and then he just seems to come out and kill a bunch of people. It's like, that's not what Candyman is, though. Like, he does come out and he does torment people, but he's looking for someone to. He's looking to repeat a cycle.
But it's like he's not out to kill you. He wants to give you pleasure because the pain is exquisite. He was like, the pain will be exquisite.
Yeah.
It's very, because it's Clive Barker and he did Hellraiser. And it's the same idea really.
Yeah. Because like his background as a character is he's a slave who fell in love with a white woman, and because he fell in love with a white woman, he was burned at the stake pretty much, and beaten and tortured, and his hands cut off and all sorts. So he's essentially out for revenge on
those that have tormented him and stuff.
Yeah.
So.
Ben, did you want to do one? Or
Yeah, I'll try and get one in. Try and do it really quick.
Go on.
Mine isn't a film.
Oh.
Sorry.
I'm joking.
It's you could say it's like a potentially. I think they're treating it as a long film. I'm really petrified about the Obi-Wan series for Disney Plus.
No, to be fair, no, I've got faith in them.
No. No. If like there's not a lot. Oh god, there's quite a lot they could do to really scare me. If he leaves Tatooine I don't know what I'm gonna. I was just like, what are you doing? There's like clear implications that his mission is to watch over Luke on Tatooine, and if he goes off Tatooine to go and hunt down Vader for a fight because they want to have Hayden Christensen in the show again, it's like, oh my god, no, please, no. But I'm also at the same level. I'm also sick of looking at Tatooine.
I was just about to say you hate Tatooine.
Yeah, so the whole thing. I don't want the show to exist, to be honest. Because the idea is Obi-Wan clearly didn't do anything, and he sat and meditated in his hut and looked at Luke for a little bit, not in a pervy way, but he just watched from afar, not in a pervy way. But then they're gonna have him like get involved with stuff, aren't they? And have him do stuff.
He's got to do something.
Yeah, but show shouldn't exist because they feel that they have to do something.
He needs to protect Luke from other things on Tatooine that might be, to his disadvantage. Like, what if there's some weird little Jabba thing that's trying to get Luke, and Obi-Wan has to infiltrate another Jabba's palace or something and assassinate
stuff. The way I see it is, number one, I reckon he is completely going to leave Tatooine.
Oh God, no!
Because
see the problem.
I see it as a sort of...
His mission is to protect Luke.
Yeah, but what if he has to go off world to protect him?
The way that I see it as panning out is, number one, I expect it to be wholly a limited series, one-time thing.
Yeah.
Please don't make more than one season. And number two, I expect it to be, the reason that he's leaving is it's a tying up loose ends so that he can just hide on Tatooine. I see him as going off and closing the book on a lot of different things so that he can return to Tatooine, erase his past, and live as a hermit.
I think you can protect someone by leaving world. Like, say if I don't know exactly how it could pan out, but like for some reason he knows that there's someone on another planet that is planning to tell. Oh no, here's one. Someone discovers Luke on Tatooine, and they run to tell Vader, so he has to chase them down and follow them and make sure they never get to Vader. There you go, Ben. Good
nobody like knows that Luke is the son of Vader. Nobody knows that Vader is Anakin. Nobody knows that Luke exists or that he's on the farm. It's just weak.
It can be done.
I think that Vader...
Yeah, poorly.
I think that Vader is going to pop up. I'm hoping that if there is at all any interaction between him and Obi-Wan, I hope it's like minimal.
No, they're going to have them fight. They're going to do it. They're going to have them have a big fight again.
Modern fight between them.
Oh God,
no.
Just watch a fan film, James. There's a fan film of that. Just watch the fan film.
Yeah, but I want to watch one with a budget. I want to watch Ewan McGregor do it.
But
no.
I don't think that Vader is going to be the series antagonist, if you get what I mean. I reckon that the main loose end would probably be someone like Commander Cody.
Oh yeah, there was that theory floating around, and I'd love that.
There's no personal vendetta between the two. He was just doing his job, and because he has the chip in his head to just shoot him down. He doesn't He might as well go after all the clones that do it. It's a bit weak.
I don't know. He and Cody had more of a relationship than every other clone.
I was going to say, it's like...
But Obi-Wan's not the type to have a vendetta and go after somebody.
I don't think it's a vendetta. I think it's maybe he's going to try and convince Cody or try and remove the chip or do something like that. And in the end, it's going to end up with him having to take Cody out.
I will say, if Hayden's in it, it would be a shame to not do any Clone Wars flashbacks in live action.
Yeah, I reckon
because they're both still quite young looking. That would be a shame to not, because then you could establish in live action that they actually are good friends, and he was a good friend. Like you could actually show that in live action. That'd be a bit of a shame. You could have Rosario Dawson in it as well as Ahsoka.
They're not going to bring back Hayden Christensen and then have him in the Darth Vader suit the entire time, because that would be a waste of bringing him back.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think his role will mostly be in flashbacks. I think.
And I will say though, because it's on Tatooine and they haven't done it yet. I want to see Watto and Sebulba. I want to see at least show me what they're getting up to. Come on.
Isn't Sebulba? Didn't he die? Didn't Sebulba die?
No, he said hoodoo. It is pod racer. And the camera cut away. He didn't die.
What happens when? What happens now when they bring Jar Jar back?
Do it. Give us Darth Jar Jar. Do it. We've been waiting for so long. Just do it, you cowards.
I don't know if they're going to do Darth Jar Jar. I think we're
No,
going to have to
they
wait
won't.
for Star Wars Visions for that.
Oh,
I
want
think
it to
as
be
well,
canon
would it
so
be-
bad.
I'm not. I think they shouldn't really have Luke in it. Like in Rebels, they handle it, the Obi-Wan stuff perfectly in Rebels, and Luke in Rebels is perfect. I think it'd be quite cool if Luke isn't really in it. However, if Luke's gonna be in it, would it be a shame to not have Luke hang out with his Tatooine mates like Biggs and stuff? Would that be a shame?
Yeah,
'Cause
they're going to be in it because they're going to like Luke's going to be what, like 10 or something in this.
Yeah.
He's going to be a kid. Like I don't even know actually. Like
It'd be 10
he
because
was
it's set 10 years.
18,
No, it's 10
19
because it's set 10 years after Sith. This show, so
right. Okay,
be
so
10.
he's going to be like a little kid.
It'd be little
He's gonna
Annie,
be like one of these.
Jake Lloyd.
Yeah.
I've not seen. You know, I'm gonna put it out there. I haven't seen like all of Clone Wars or Rebels or anything. But do you reckon that he's gonna go check up on Leia at some point as well? Which
No.
means that we'll finally see
No,
Alderaan
no.
and what that.
We've
actually
seen
looks
Alderaan.
Like, not
We've
in
seen Alderaan.
pieces. Have we?
Yeah, in the end of Sith, Bale gives Leia to his wife. But I think it'd be a big shame as well if Qui-Gon isn't in it as well, teaching Obi-Wan how to be a ghost, and it'd be a shame that he and Yoda aren't in it. And I think it'd be a shame.
Teaching him how to be a ghost.
Yeah. Yeah.
That is a thing,
I-
Christian.
that is it.
No,
they don't just get
yeah.
to do it; they do have to train.
but I
and
said it
learn
in
how
a-
to do it.
I
silly way.
get it, but it was just the way that he phrased it.
Yeah.
And like if like to have like Joel Edgerton not return as Uncle Owen, and maybe him and Obi-Wan don't like each other because Uncle Owen's like, you're responsible. Like that'd be cool to have some tension between them and have them return would be quite nice. But the show shouldn't exist anyway. But you know, oh dear,
So that's the way it's going to disappoint you by existing.
pretty much. Rebels did it. Rebels handled it perfectly. Rebels did it perfectly. So they should have left it, but they can't. They can't. They can't.
Yeah.
They can't leave it alone. Fucking hell.
And on
on
that
earth?
positive note, I think that's about time to wrap up. Do we agree?
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Yeah, I'm gonna go and cry. Have a
after
silly
however long this turns out being rant, please like and subscribe. What we do here, it really means a lot to us.
thing. It really does.
Please.
It really does.
Just hit just everything down there. Hit
Yeah.
it, comment.
If you want to watch Dan mispronounce Star Wars names, stay tuned. What will he come up with next week?
I'm sure there's loads more to come.
Yeah, I can't wait.
But for now, that is us. That is it from us here at Spacemen from Pluto. So till next time, goodbye.
See you later.
Well.
Bye.